finally, I got to watch this thing, and it was a really great movie, right? A really genuinely great movie. It's a huge recommend, right? It's a huge recommend. So my first journey into Godzilla was, I remember seeing it on, like, you know, on school holidays, Sunday mornings, you know, in when I was young in the 80s. You know, and it's just part of the world that you grew up in. It was like big monsters, guy walking around in a costume, in a big Godzilla suit, like stomping on a little model of Tokyo. It's fun, it's silly, as the later Godzilla movies became. And then, of course, we had the Godzilla cartoon with Godzuki. I wasn't a fan of Godzuki. Anyway, but then several years ago, I think when it was... I think when Gareth Edwards one was coming out, when they're basically reviving the monster, I went back and watched the original version, and it's an expression of why I really love pop culture, right? Because pop culture allows you to be able to comment on things in reality, comment on the world in a way that's very painful things, right? That you're not able to attack directly. And that first Godzilla was absolutely Japan's national mourning, grief, shock, horror, repulsion, disgust at the losing World War II, entering a war that they lost. So they had all this shame and humiliation. And also, you know, the being the victims of nuclear attack, right? It absolutely shook the country, and that's how shook the nation in the same way October 7th it shook Israel, right? In a world generally a world changing way, which this one really leads into, right? This one, they tried to do serious Godzilla movies a lot over the last 10 years or so. This is the only one that really worked because it focuses much more on the human drama than it does on Godzilla, and Godzilla is more a catalyst for the human drama, right? The Gareth Edwards ones, everything, they tried to do that with what's the name, Bryan Cranston in it, but this one, and it's a testament to how great this script is because it's all subtitled. That I found the characters much more compelling. Right, I found the characters. You're very, very much bought into the character's journey, and here's again, and you're reading what they're saying via subtitles, which I think is a sign of strength of writing. It really is, right? So essentially, it starts off at the end of World War II, and you have I can't remember any character's name in it. Right, they're all like Shukisang, Shikisang. I have no idea. I'm no freaking idea. Right, but this kamikaze pilot. He makes a landing in one of the Japanese islands, and he says there's a problem with his plane. And it turns out there's no problem with the plane, right? He just doesn't want to be a kamikaze pilot, right? He doesn't want to. It was towards the end of the war. He knew that it was, he knew that Japan wasn't going to win, right? So that night. Right, while he's there, he has this Godzilla encounter, and it's a baby Godzilla, right? It's when I say baby, he's still like, I don't know, as tall as your average house, maybe a little bit taller, right? Not skyscraper size, more like 2-3 story house size, right? I think more closer to 2 stories, right? Maybe a little bit more than 2 stories, and this event sets up the catalyst for this. Like, he's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder throughout this movie, but from this event, right, where he sees everybody, basically everybody gets brutally killed by Godzilla, and it's like it. So that mixed with the pain of him not being, of pain and the shame of him not going through with his kamikaze. Orders, right? It's the shadow of the whole movie, and it defines this character, right? And that is the what he needs to grow out of in the movie, and it's a very, very engaging and beautiful story, right? I really think so. So I think that takes up to. I'm not going to give you major spoilers, right? But he goes back to Japan, and he finds his family home destroyed, and his parents are killed, and people and like there's just anger at him, right? Because he didn't do his. The people of Japan didn't do their job, like they lost, and and so you see all this devastation, right? And you see all this like recrimination. And it really sets the world for what the world of Japan was post World War II, right? Because as soon as the movie gets going, World War II's over, and they're rebuilt, and you see like this shattered society and the shattered lives, right? So he essentially ends up getting a ready-made family. He meets a girl who has a baby. And it turns out it's not her baby. She's it was just like a refugee, for want of a better word, like an orphan's kid, right? And they form a family unit, but they aren't dating, they aren't stooping each other, right? And they should get married. They do fall in love, and so the next like 20 minutes though is like you see the next few years unfold in post-war Japan as they start to recover slowly. And that's really the drive of the movie, right? The recovery in post-war Japan. And then, when Godzilla shows up, it's so much more painful, right? It's so much more incredibly painful when you see the rebuilding that has been done in Japan after the war to be destroyed again by Godzilla. The Godzilla scenes I found excellent, but they're going to be excellent these days, right? They're going to be completely committed. Did I find the Gareth Edwards one slightly more realistic? Well, it's hard to really comment because I haven't seen it on like a 4K copy, right? I saw a very good cam version of it. Quite frankly, it seemed very professional. So I got so I can't really comment on the special effects, but it seems fine, right? It seems absolutely fine. But the thrust of the movie, well, one of the main thrusts of the movie is the relationship between this woman that he doesn't hook up with, but they live together and they raise a kid together, and the struggles for in post-war Japan to cope with, to think about, to be able to assimilate what has happened to them, right? And so towards the end of the movie, when you have when Godzilla basically shows up, right, and threatens everyone. So you have a lot of the ex-military or now private citizens come up with a plan to take on Godzilla. And because you're so invested in all of these characters, right, it's a much bigger deal, right? It's like you are very emotionally carried through this this movie through their journey. And then you see like all this resentment and hatred towards the government for bringing them in, the Japanese government for bringing them into this war. And screwing up, essentially, right? And then really towards the end, this is something I wish we would do here in Israel right now, right? It makes me so mad, I'll give you an example. So, was it last Sabbath? My this new young rabbi we have, who's okay, I don't mind him, right? Came up and said Mazel Tov to me because my younger son got engaged. So I was like, I didn't want to do it. I said, well, if he survives. He said, and that freaked him out. I say that. So what I wanted to say, but I let him off the hook because he's a cute little kid. I'm not going to be a kid to like crush him. But like, I wanted to turn around to him and say, yeah, look, October 7th is, because we're all supposedly religious. October 7th is clearly a sign that God's super duper happy with us, right? Absolutely a sign of that, right? It wasn't an obscene, terrible punishment for the things that we do or we don't do, right? And then clearly, why would I worry about my son when following October 7th, their rabbinic leadership took so much responsibility? None whatsoever. They took so much responsibility for what happened and led us, spiritually led us to introspect, to see where we were wrong and where God is trying to tell us to grow. And again, if you're not religious, it's fine not to think that way, but I'm talking the fucking rabbi, right? And I have to tell you, our rabbinic leadership, our rabbinic class, totally fucking useless. Like, completely useless. Oh, God. And like, I can't get over that. But anyway, the point is this. So you have this moment in this movie towards the end where they're openly talking about where they were wrong in World War II and say, we didn't care enough about life, right? We built fighter jets without ejector seats, right? And then we went on to kamikaze pilots, and that was wrong, right? That was where we failed, right? And be able to introspect that way, like, honestly, without squirming, without getting... That was, I think, the most important thing in taking on Godzilla, right? It absolutely was. Now, so then in the the last quarter of the movie, you have this plan to take on Godzilla. You have like you have all the Godzilla tropes, right? You've got Godzilla throwing trains and stuff across. Well, it's not Tokyo; it's another town, right? But so you have all of that. But again, that the layers of emotional complexity that they put onto it make this into a totally different movie. If the Oscars were still worth anything, and they're not, they're garbage, this should get Best Picture, right? It's a really, really, I mean, the Best Picture Oscars are normally like a, very weighty, Kyoto, thank you, Lonnie. Very weighty, serious character pieces. That's really what does well in the Oscars. This is the same thing, right? This is exactly the same thing. You're very much on the hero's journey. There are surprising events that happen in it. There's something happens halfway through. I was like, holy shit! Really? That blew me away, right? And I liked the ending. The ending was happy, I would say. Yeah, I would call it a happy. But the main point of the ending was, like, this guy couldn't escape his war, couldn't escape, the Godzilla attack when it went at the beginning, couldn't, the guilt, the recrimination, right? The self-hatred brought about from that. And that's why he never hooked up with the woman that they ended up living together, is because his war wasn't over, right? And this was about him finding closure from that war, right? It's or at least nicely into 1954 movies of Lonnie. I didn't think about that, but I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. So I found it a very powerful and very, very, very moving story. One that I think we here in Israel could certainly learn from, which is probably why we're not getting here in Israel. Right? I just, again, from a theological point of view, I wish we could have a national conversation about what, if you believe in God, why would a God done October 7th? It's the same question as why would God do the Holocaust, right? We've been talking about that for 70 years. I wish we could have that conversation, but sadly not, right? I think it'd be better for us if we could. But again, I think this movie actually has real weight and worth, right? Real weight and worth. My name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.